Hi everyone, Caroline here. So I'm going to be sharing certain things that I've been noticing about how this new experience is for me and what I'm noticing in my own life and also in the lives of the people that I know who have been in the spiritual community for a long minute. So, question, if you've been on this journey for a long time, so let's say you've been working with crystals for a long time, have you changed? And are you still doing the same things that you were doing while you were working with the crystals? Or have you evolved from working with the crystals and embodied the crystalline energies and are moving forward into bigger and wider and limitless? Or are you still the same person who's talking about things that you were talking about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and still showing up with that same energy in this now moment? Tell me, have you changed? Have you transformed? Or are you still holding on to the old things? I'm noticing this thing quite a lot in a lot of people who are asking the same questions. And I'm not referring to people who just started the journey or people who are just finding these tools at this particular time. I'm just referring to those people who've been on this path like forever. You know what I mean? I have been a little bit surprised, and I'm not being judgmental. I'm just putting this thing out there just because everything is a teachable moment. And sometimes, just by observation, we learn certain things about where we are as a collective. Because I know that there are certain people, I might be included in this group as well, you know. Um, I know there are certain people, spiritual people, who are just still on the same thing that they've been on since I knew them many, many years ago, since I've been observing them many, many years ago. They're still talking about the same things, they're still on the same path. And sometimes it just makes me wonder, are we really transforming? Like, how long will it take us as a collective if we are still hanging on to the things that we were hanging on to when we were babies? You know what I mean? There's a stage of growth, there's the ladder of growth, there's a spiral of evolution, there's an expanded consciousness. At least at some point, someone should have gone up the rung. And as you go up the rung, there's certain things you have to drop because there's a higher responsibility with tools that are needed for you to start utilizing on those higher rungs. So if you find yourself on that top end of the spiral, you cannot be basically holding on to things that you were holding on to when you are in kindergarten. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, okay, fine. I know there's a certain aspect where maybe people are using this spiritual conversations as a medium of, you know, maybe for for commercial reasons, right? Which is fine. You know what I mean? However, people want to play it out. Of course, it just happens how it has to happen. And I'm not judging anyone for that, but are people really transforming? Like, I look at certain things and I'm just like, wow, it's probably going to take a long, long time. And I know that a lot of people, and for us, we're here for different purposes and we are operating at different speeds and whatnot. I'm not judging. Let's get that clear, okay? What I mean is, in your observation, have you personally changed? Have you personally transformed? If you are a crystal lover like I am, and I'm going to be getting into that at some point, but if you are a crystal lover as I am, have you evolved? Have you changed? How have the crystals changed you? How have you embodied being a crystalline being? Who are you now compared to who you were last year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, 10 years ago? Are you still the same person using the same principles? I hope you're keeping in mind that as the energies have been increasing on the planet, everything is being affected, including the energies of the crystals. The crystals and how we used to use them many, many years ago, the type of energy that they had at that time that was helping us evolve is completely different from the type of energy that they have in this now. The energies now are really different. They are lighter. They are for us a different purpose than they were at that time. You know what I mean? Now is a completely different thing. And I'm sure some of you have noticed. So are you still working with crystals based on that old energy, or have you come into the new energy and into the new way of utilizing crystals? We always have to check ourselves. We always have to gauge ourselves and see how we are transforming, or whether we are transforming or not, or whether the tools that we are using, and I'm not even just talking about crystals, it could be any modality out there. I mean, people can't just be sitting here and I think about this thing. People can't just be sitting here and looking around and seeing how people are just putting out information and putting out content, and a lot of people are flocking to that content, and it's the same content from those days, and it even doesn't make sense in this now, but many people are buying into it. You know what I mean? And that thing kind of really gets to me. And maybe it shouldn't, because everybody is on their path, but I'm talking about it because I just feel like I just need to be sharing what is authentically true for me as an observer. If something is not changing your life, why are we still insisting that this is how we should go? It's like religion. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it is. I don't even care whether it's astrology, whether it's tarot, whether it's, channelings, some of these things are no longer practical. I mean, it's just that we are so attached to these things that these things are so visible to us, and we just can't let these things go. And because we are not letting these things go, a lot of things are not able to happen because we are still holding on to baggage. And I'm not saying that these things are wrong. It could be anything. You know what I mean? Whatever it is we are obsessed with out there, you know what I mean? Or working with. And maybe obsessed is not the right word, but I'm just saying, even listening to certain people, listening to me, okay? Um, Sometimes it could be an old thing. Unless I'm showing up as the new being that I am, there's absolutely no reason for someone who's been with me or who's known me for a long minute to keep listening to me if they don't observe a change in me. And that's the other thing again, you know what I mean? If the person that you listen to or share information with, or spiritual information with, or you have this back and forth, the way I have back and forth with certain people who've known me for a minute, yeah? If I'm not changing, if you can look at me and see, this Caroline hasn't changed, you know what I mean? This Caroline hasn't evolved. You need to like wonder why. What is it that I'm saying? How, if it's not changing my life, if I'm not transforming, you know what I mean? Sometimes the exchange of energy is like a law of attraction. Why are you attracted to me if you're not changing, right? If I'm evolving, you should also be on some level be able to evolve, and not completely the way I'm evolving, or I shouldn't evolve the way you're evolving, but on some aspect of your life, you should be able to evolve. I look at certain teachers that I really, really loved, or I still love them on some level. Some of them have not changed. So we have had to part ways, no matter how much I love them, because they haven't changed. So I believe that the message that they had for me was a message for that specific time, and it's no longer like applicable to me. So it's just adios, with love. And then certain people have changed to the point where they're gone, they're gone. Like they're no longer, I mean, I can't even find them. Some of them, unfortunately, two of my favorite teachers really, really, really taught me so much about sacred geometry, about just higher expansive things. I mean, they died. Like, can you imagine? They died like 2 weeks apart from each other in completely separate incidences. I looked up this person and I was like, oh my God, he's dead. What? Then this other one, like 2 weeks later, he's dead. I'm like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? Like they're totally gone from the planet. I mean, they've evolved to other places, but the fact that they're no longer there was a message for me. It was the end of something. And because I still feel a fire for that content in my heart, and because I've seen certain things in my own life that are still showing me, or have shown me, that I need to continue on that path, I'm going to continue on that path with that thing, because I had not even begun to explore that content the way I needed to explore it, because I was just caught up with other matters. But now I feel like it's the time for that thing to happen. And it's just sad that they transitioned, but for me, it's going to be a beginning. So, anyway, have you changed, or have you transformed, or are you still stuck onto those old things? People are still talking about things that people were talking about years and years ago. Where are you at? Where are you in terms of your spiritual evolution? You know, that's the question for today. And that's what I'm noticing. And that's what I'm sharing. Tell me in the comment section. I love you guys. And until my next observation, take care. Mwah. Bye.